to Sit and See live. We have a new angle today. I see we've got 4 people here so far. Who is here? For those who might be new, I'm Dr. Jared Jones. My background is in ancient systems of meditation, primarily Buddhism and Taoism. And I've also done some research into the cognitive science of meditation. That's what my master's degree was about. And I've been meditating for about 20 years, and quite serious. Looks like Cleric. Bring in the magic. Who else is here? Everyone's shy today. All right, well, I figured that today we would jump into standing and walking meditation. Since the last 12 days, we have done seated practice. So we'll do a bit of seated practice today. And that's why I have the camera angle set up to show you your mirror-like mind here. See? The mirror-like mind behind me. So we're going to do some standing practice, some walking practice, some seated practice today. Out of curiosity, did anybody have a chance to look at the video I put up in the last couple of days? We talked about it a bit yesterday. I'm going to be putting up another one maybe tonight with a bit of luck. I've been working on it like 30 hours straight. There's a fantastic documentary about, well, I don't know. I don't want to say too much, but anyways, pretty exciting. I'm going to be filming it in the new sort of high quality way that I filmed the previous material, and we will hopefully be maintaining that standard moving forward. Yep, the video on God logic. Did everyone like my clickbaity YouTube title? And YouTube said I had to have more controversial sounding stuff, otherwise people wouldn't click on it. It's really difficult in the course of a normal conversation to lay out all the arguments that I laid out in that video. I've been in sort of real life situations where I try to explain to somebody, for example, why it is that an infinite causal sequence actually makes much more sense than the alternative. And it's really tough. It's really tough to get people's minds over it. In particular, because if they've already been trained, for example, in Christian thinking, there's a whole series of objections that they've heard from their religious leaders, like, well, first of all, that it's just impossible. Well, why exactly? And usually they don't know. But then if you say, okay, well, can you name an example where something comes from something that doesn't change and that itself didn't come from causes? I mean, really, I think, Kyle, you weren't here yesterday, but let me put this challenge to you. Can you name a single thing, excluding the Big Bang, which nobody can see beyond, nobody can see behind it to see what's going on, so you can't use that example? Can you name any effect in reality that didn't come from a previous cause? Likewise, can you name any cause that isn't the effect of previous conditions? If you can, put it in the chat. If you can't, then you have to admit that actually all of the evidence of your senses, all the evidence that you have ever seen in your entire life, aligns with the idea that actually every effect comes from causes and conditions, and every set of causes and conditions comes from further causes and conditions. It doesn't come from a single cause that itself is uncaused. Every single thing you point to always comes from something else. So nirvana is a really, really good example, okay? So nirvana is a cessation. So the example I used the other day for cessations is, if you had a candle and it was burning, and it was burning down a wick in an oil container, as the oil goes down, the wick will burn only in the part where the oil is touching the air, right? So the wick will go down with the oil like this until it reaches the bottom. When it goes out, the absence of that particular candle flame, the non-existence of that particular candle flame, is permanent, unchanging, and it's actually uncaused. How do we know? Think about a seed in a sprout. The sprout is an effect that arises because the seed transforms and combines with various other causes and conditions like moisture, I don't know, probably carbon dioxide, some nutrients, whatever. And it combines and forms the sprout, right? So there's a primary cause and there are supporting causes or conditions that are bringing the sprout into existence. And the sprout itself is simply the transformation of those previous causes and conditions into itself. Is this making sense? The parts came together, including the primary cause, and formed the new thing. And that new thing is also a constantly changing thing that will become something else. Nirvana, like blowing out a candle flame, is not something that comes into existence because other things have transformed into something else. Rather, when you blow out, or when the candle flame burns out, right? When the candle flame burns out, you end up with, how to say, there's no set of causes and conditions that itself, like the seed, transforms into the non-existence of the flame. The non-existence of the flame is simply the going out of existence of, or the exhaustion of, the conditions that maintained the existence of the flame. So there's nothing, as my teacher used to say, when you have a seed and a sprout, the sprout, in a basic sense, flips over and becomes the seed flips over and becomes the sprout. So the seed is going along as a seed, it finds moisture, and then it flips over and continues as the sprout. So seed, sprout, right? With the candle flame, you have the flame existing because of causes and conditions, and when the causes and conditions go out, the flame goes out. So the absence of that flame, represented by this circle here, the absence of that flame is not something that arose because something flipped over, a changing phenomenon with parts and so forth flipped over into it. It's simply the absence of something. Something stopped existing. Likewise, nirvana requires certain conditions. For the candle flame to go out of existence, you had to exhaust the oil and exhaust the wick. For nirvana to come into existence, you have to exhaust the delusions, and you have to exhaust ignorance. And along with the delusions, exhaust karma. So you're exhausting karma and delusion, and you're exhausting ignorance, the wick. And once these are exhausted, nirvana is simply the absence of those things. In the same way that the flame, when it goes out of existence, you just have the absence of the flame. It's not caused by anything. It's simply that the conditions that maintained its existence previously have stopped. Likewise, when the conditions that have maintained your suffering forever have stopped, that's nirvana. The reason it's permanent, reliable, unchanging is because it's not a caused thing. You need conditions to bring it into being, like an eightfold path, for example. That's the special conditions you need to set up so that you stop feeding it and you cause it to go out, and you eliminate the conditions maintaining its existence. and causes maintaining its existence. But the state itself is not a caused thing. This is why it's reliable. If it was caused, it wouldn't be reliable. It would be changing and unreliable just like everything else. This is actually, if you want a really good argument against heaven, this is one of the reasons that heaven can't work. It's the result of causes and conditions. By necessity, if it's coming into existence due to a changing set of causes and conditions, when those are exhausted, heaven will be something different. And this is why you fall out of a heavenly rebirth and back into something else. This is why no realm is permanent. This is actually a really profound discussion. Okay, is this too much or is this making sense? Is this helping, not helping? This Buddhist stuff is not actually, like, even if there's no rebirth, the idea that you can attain a completely reliable state of mind works based on what I just said, even if there's no rebirth and no karma. As long as it's true that the main problem that your mind is disturbed is that you have this cognitive error called ignorance in Buddhism. So as long as that's true, that this ignorance is there and it is the root problem, if you can remove it, the removal of that is once it's been removed, rather, the resulting state is an uncaused state, which means by necessity, since it's simply a state in which there is a non-existence of something that used to exist, it's utterly reliable. And that's true whether or not life continues after you die. You see? So again, this Buddhist-y stuff is not actually about just believing what the Buddha said about it or something, or even believing the great yogis who, in this review I'm going to be putting up in the next day or two, I mean, there's some incredible things that they say. But I mean, even if you don't accept what they say, this is actually one of those arguments that for me changed everything. I went, oh wow, actually that makes sense. The reason I could have a perfect state for me, regardless of whether or not there's rebirth, is because if my problems are coming from the inside, in terms of my mental disturbance, if my mental disturbance is from my side, and if that mental disturbance is maintained by causes and conditions, and if I can, in fact, remove those causes and conditions, if that's a real possibility, then the resultant state will be an uncaused state in a philosophical sense. I've removed something. I haven't added something. If I added one more changing thing, I would be right back to where I am because changing things are unreliable. Since I've removed a changing thing that was the source of all the problems, the resultant state in the absence of that, since it's a privation, since it's a negation, since it's an absence, is permanent, unchanging, utterly reliable forever, period. This is why nirvana is possible, and this is why nirvana is real, whether or not you believe in rebirth. And since that's been permanently removed, if rebirth is real, even if you can't remember anything moving forward, doesn't matter. You've removed this thing from your mind. And since it's gone, the resultant state moving forward will also be unchanging. Even if you have no clue who you were in your previous life by the time you get to the next one. But of course, if you had that level of capability, you will remember, assuming that you want to be reborn at all. Okay, friends. We've got about 7 people or so in the chat now. If you're new, please do ask questions. Saturday, we tend to wander in discussion a bit. We're going to be doing both seated and standing practice today. So if that's something you're interested in, I wasn't expecting to have so many people online. I was hoping that everyone would know the instructions for body scanning already, and we were going to do that walking. But we'll do a little more preparation seated before we do walking and standing, so everyone can be on board. Okay. Hopefully everyone who's here has a bit of experience. Yeah, you got to marinate in it, cleric. You've got to marinate in the ideas, think about them, find the best possible arguments against them. I mean, the only argument that is perhaps a bit sticky is does that cognitive error actually exist? And does that cognitive error actually cause the problems that Buddhism claims that it causes? Because if it doesn't, then the whole system collapses, right? If it's not there and it doesn't cause those problems, and if all of this is caused by something else or something out of your control, then the whole thing falls apart. But uh, really, the only way to answer that question is by looking inside, and that takes meditative training. You can't actually get a philosophical answer to that question. If you wanted a somewhat scientific answer to that question, I would say look at practitioners like Mingyur Rinpoche, who I'll type in here for those who are new. Mingyur Rinpoche. You can look up brain scans of Mingyur Rinpoche, who's a greatly accomplished yogi. Did I think 2 periods of 3-year retreat, and his neurological results are so far outside the realm of normal for a human being when he engages in various kinds of practice. It's absolutely astonishing. When he was in, for example, happiness, really, really profound, deep happiness in neurology comes in as gamma waves. And I can't remember the normal frequency for gamma waves, but when great meditators like Mingyur Rinpoche enter into deep concentration, their gamma rays go up to something like 700 times the normal experience of gamma wave happiness. So it is literally unimaginable the level of deep joy and satisfaction that the great yogi can accomplish in a fraction of a second sitting on a cushion after years of practice. So I think there are indications like this now from science where we can go, okay, you guys claim you have a technique where you can turn the mind inward, look at the mind, find the main problem that's making the mind unhappy and make it go away. And when we scan your brain is 700 times happier than a normal person. That's a strong indication that you're telling the truth. You know? And I say all this just to help motivate you guys, you know? Ultimately, you need to look inside and see, are these components actually there? Is this the way that it works? Because that's actually how you do the work. That's how you do the work of making it go away, or at least part of it, right? Okay, let's get into some practice since there's no more comments or questions, it seems. So, for walking and standing practice, actually, let me start over. The main way that I teach city-dwelling lay people, primarily, who want to be able to train in meditation as deeply as they can in the midst of real life. I'm also an advocate of retreat. Retreat's very important. You should do retreats. But if you want to be like the great practitioners who practice on some occasions 8 or 16 hours a day or more, you have to learn how to transform your ordinary daily activity into the path, into training. The main way that you do that, in my humble view, or sorry, not the main way, but one way you can start moving significantly in that direction is by learning how to do the same level of deep concentration while standing that you can accomplish sitting. Because if your meditation depends on being in a seated posture or a laying posture, then you can't ever take it full on into real life. It's married to your cushion. So if you want to be able to take it fully into real life, you have to learn how to engage and create these states while standing. Furthermore, if your meditation depends upon you not moving, well, then you can only do it while standing still or sitting still or laying still. And the Buddha said you need to accomplish meditation in 4 circumstances: laying down, sitting, standing, and walking. So walking then is the bridge, because it's the most basic physical action of movement, probably, besides simply standing there, right? So you need to be able to train your mind to generate the same level of deep concentration and focus that you have when you're seated still while moving. You see? And so what we're going to do is, first we're going to do a body scan. Then we're going to do the 5 points for those of you who have been with me before. Then we're going to stand after doing the body scan and 5 points, and we're going to hold the 5 points in a standing position. And I'll give you some instructions on how to stand so that it's relatively comfortable, but standing still is uncomfortable. So if it doesn't feel good, that's okay. And then once we've stood for a while, we're going to walk. So that's a really, really good question. Do you have to walk slowly to do walking meditation? No. But think about it like a child with a ball, okay? If you watch a small child with a ball, really small child, first the parent picks up the ball and rolls it to the child, and the child it just bounces away. And then they take the ball again and they pick it up and they show the kid, here's how you pick it up, and they roll it to the child. And the child tries to pick it up and it gets bumped and rolls away. And then the child picks it up, but as soon as they start walking, they drop it. And so the child can stand still with the ball, but they can't walk with the ball. And then the child picks it up and they can walk, but as soon as they start running, they drop the ball. And so at every stage of trying to hold the object, the child goes through a period of time where, as they add on more difficulty, more complexity, they drop the ball, they drop the object. Likewise, in terms of training and meditation, at first, I'm doing my best to hand you the instructions for how to place the mind on the breath, for example, and you try to do it and you can't do it. And then you can do that. And then we do some body scanning and make it a little deeper. And then you're going to stand up and your mind's going to be a wreck. And then it'll work. And then we're going to walk really slow and your mind will be a wreck. And then it'll work. And then we'll walk a little more normally and the mind will be a wreck again. And then it'll start working. And so you're going to go through this same sort of process of every time you add on a level of challenge, your mind will fall back in terms of progress and you have to bring it back up again. That being said, with the techniques of opening the 5 sense gates, which I call Foundation 4, that technique is like a golden key for opening the door. It's a golden key for opening the door to concentration, because your perception, like this mirror here behind me, it doesn't care. I don't think you're going to be able to see my arm, but it doesn't care. It's happy to reflect whatever appears. If somebody threw a fireball into my house and it started burning down, it would just happily reflect it. It doesn't care at all. And if somebody came in here and handed me a check for $2 million, it wouldn't care. It's just reflecting whatever happens to appear in the room, if we're not getting too weird about what a reflection is. So likewise, when you train to open the 6 sense gates, those sense gates don't care what appears. And if you can fall back and drop into a state of concentration on mere tactility, mere vision, mere smell, mere taste, mere sound, simply like a mirror, ready, available, fully engaged, then the mind is already in a state of concentration. And therefore, when you start to move, again, the mirror doesn't care. It just reflects. It doesn't matter if you're moving the mirror around, right? The mirror is happy to reflect, in a manner of speaking, whatever happens to appear, no matter what its disposition. So, like this, you can train in concentration, I think, much more easily, much more deeply if you can open the sense gates. This is why it's like a golden key. If you want to unlock concentration, opening the 5 external sense gates in particular is a massive, massive benefit to lay people training in the real world. Okay. Since we have a bunch of new people, some people may stay, some may not. It's hard to say. But we're going to do some practice now. So if you're here and you'd like to do some practice, just assume the position. So whatever you need to do to get the body working. That's right. Fireballs. Okay. So prepare your body. Sit still. If you need to move a little bit. If you need to move a little bit, that's fine. So let's start with just a few minutes of intensive breath meditation. For those of you who may be new, just place your mind on your breath with great force, as if your life depends upon it. This is what the great texts say. This is not my advice. This is the great yogis who have actually accomplished meditation. So we're going to forcefully bring the mind into the body, into the present moment, and then we're going to start doing our body scan. Okay? So 3, 2, 1, go. we're going to begin the body scan. Bring the mind to the left foot, left ankle, lower half of the left calf, upper part, knee, lower thigh, upper thigh, and into the hip joint. Right foot, right ankle, lower part of the right calf, upper part, knee, lower thigh, upper thigh, and hip joint. Front of the pelvis, back of the pelvis, including the buttocks, sacrum, and into the tailbone. Anus, perineum, and scan the sexual organs. Focus on the tip of the organ. Now bring the awareness to the front of the waist. The back of the waist. The front of the diaphragm belt. And the back of the diaphragm belt. Front of the chest. And the back of the chest. Top of your left shoulder. Front. Left. Back. Underneath. Around the bicep. Elbow. Forearm. wrist, palm and back of hand, thumb, pointer, middle, ring, pinky, top of your right shoulder, front, right, back, around the bicep, elbow, forearm, wrist, palm and back of hand, thumb, pointer, middle, ring, pinky, bottom third of your neck, middle third of your neck, upper third of your neck, back of your scalp, left side, right side, right ear, left ear, and your forehead, left eyebrow, left eye, right eyebrow, right eye, your nose, left cheek, right cheek, not your lips yet, but your upper lip, your chin, and your top lip, your bottom lip, the skin inside your mouth, your teeth, roof of your mouth, underneath your tongue, and your tongue. follow your tongue to the throat. And bring your attention sliding up through the head to the top of the head, to the top of the scalp. On the top of your scalp somewhere, you're going to find an area that seems more alive than the rest of your scalp. And just sort of broadly focus on that area where you feel a lot more sensations. Now, from there, maintaining that point, stretch your awareness down from that point to your left hand, palm, fingertips, nail beds. Keep that point, stretch your awareness down to the right hand, palm, fingertips, nail beds. Hold the 3 points. Maintaining the 3 points, stretch your awareness down from the head once more to the left foot, heel, pad, toes, toe tips, nail beds. Maintaining the 4 points, stretch your awareness down to the right foot, heel, pad, toes, toe tips, nail beds. Maintain the 5 points. Refresh the 5 points. Bring your awareness to the top of the head. Keep all 5 points intact, but give the one at the top of the head a little more bandwidth. And then stretch the awareness down to both hands. Stretch the awareness down again to both feet. Hold the 5 points. Okay. Keep about 50% of your awareness in the 5 points. Don't let them go. Just listen to the instructions. So we're going to come to a standing position. When we do, I want you to look at your feet, first of all. Matter of fact, why don't you do what I'm describing, since I can't talk into the mic and show you at the same time. So come to a standing position. Once you're in a standing position, I want you to put your feet somewhere between shoulder distance and hip distance apart. So it's up to you, but somewhere in that range. Now straighten your legs, and then bend your knees until it feels like the pressure from your body, if this is my foot, your pressure is somewhere between here and here. So here's my heel, and here's the ball of the foot, right? You want your pressure somewhere between here, right there, and there. So somewhere between the back of the ball and the front of the heel. In that range, you're relying on the bones, as when you lock your knees out, you're relying on the bones to hold you up. When you get all the way to your toes, you're relying on the muscles mostly to hold you up. And when you go to somewhere between here and here, you're using a combination of the bones and the muscles. And eventually, the larger muscles in the body can relax, and there are smaller, stretchy stabilizers and connective tissue that can hold you up. And admittedly, it takes quite a while for that to happen, but it ends up being the most relaxed position. So with your knees bent to that level, then I want you to take, since earlier you felt where your perineum was, just imagine that there's a really heavy weight pulling down there. And the place where you feel the point on your head, imagine that there's a balloon pulling up from there. So let your spine go like this, but don't do that by contracting a bunch of stuff. Just sort of see what happens as you just let the top of the head come up this way, and the bottom of the hips come down without really moving. So the hips in that position should, with the weight on the perineum, so to speak, should end up falling into a pretty good position that's relatively comfortable. Your spine has a natural curvature like this. And then your head will go the other way. So lower back, and head. Yeah. So now just hold the 5 points with, oh, sorry, the hands. Let's do the hands. My apologies. So the hands, I'll show you in a moment, are just going to relax down so that well, actually, rather than doing that, I'll give you a hack. So take your hands like this and make fists as if you're giving someone a thumbs up. Then turn your thumbs outward and down. And then follow the direction of the thumb and just rotate out like this. Put my camera down. Rotate out like this. And then just try to relax your chest. So if you're going like this, just relax your chest down. And now just wiggle your shoulders a little bit until they relax. Then once the shoulders have relaxed, then release the extra tension here so that the hands fall against the body. And then just relax your hands and let them fall down by your sides. Now the shoulders should be in the right position, elbow should be in the right position, and the hand should be in the right position. Now I'm going to give you one last detail. So from here, this is the front of my thigh. That's the front of my thigh. That's the side of my thigh. So when I relax my arms, see how they end up at about 45? Just take your hands and gently spread your fingers, just gently. So you're not going like this. You're just putting a little tiny bit of life into them like this. And then just let one of your fingers, probably the middle finger, just touch your thigh. And for some reason, that helps to keep the arms relaxed and everything else relaxed. And it's something to do with the fact that you're stretching the fascia through the body. But it's an important but small detail. Okay, so now I'm just going to back up, and the instructions for this are quite simple. So what you're going to do is stay in the position. Basically, don't move. If you need to rock back and forth between having the knees bent and being on the heels, that's fine, but mostly stay, as I said, between here and here, even though you'll feel your legs burning. It's totally normal for your feet to feel like they're on fire, for them to tingle, for you to feel electrical sensations in your legs. All of that's normal and okay. Unless you have an old injury, just let your mind be like a mirror. Hold the 5 points. I'm going to be too far away, I think, for you to hear the mic, but I shall return when we're ready, okay? So we're going to do a few minutes of standing. Take a short break. Keep about 50% of your awareness in the 5 points. Yep. Hmm. I'm not sure if my video is frozen on your side, but it appears that it's frozen on mine. Ah, good. Okay. It's just a user error on my side. Okay. So every time we add a level of challenge to our practice, the more difficult it becomes. So this should now put it in perspective if we all followed along for 10 minutes. This should put it in perspective that taking your practice off your cushion uh, is not easy. So people that tell you, "Oh, you just need to watch your mind," and you're meditating and it's all good. I mean, what a joke. And then once you can watch your mind a little bit, well, then you just sort of do it all the time. Okay, good luck. Because it's really, really, really hard to watch your mind with concentration. It's not hard to just randomly let your mind run all over the place and occasionally get a little bit of insight in your mind. That's not hard. But that's not that much different from what a normal person is doing. But to maintain the level of focus that we had doing breath, body scanning, 5 points, even just standing still is not easy. So you can see you need a system of training to begin taking these skills off the cushion and into everything else. And this is why these exercises are so helpful. Okay, bring your mind to the 5 points. Now I'm assuming just hearing me say that, it was fairly easy to do that, right? So now if we return to a standing position, as before, I will join you once I've explained what we're doing. So just get into the 5 points of concentration on tactile. Sorry. Bring the mind to the 5 points as you're standing. Top of the head, hands, feet. Now, when you do walking meditation, you choose a small area somewhere that preferably, in particular in the beginning, no one's going to see you because you will feel embarrassed doing this if other people see you doing it. And that's a huge hindrance to actually keeping your mind on the object. So until you get good at this and you can do it in such a way that it doesn't look like you're doing anything, this is a skill that you need to train in private, because you shouldn't look like a weird zombie person walking around in real life. As they say, you need to hide the jade. You put it in some velvet and you hide it away in a bag that looks totally normal, so that outside you look like some dude on the internet wearing a shirt in a room. Nobody can tell you're doing anything, but on the inside, your mind is doing all sorts of things. So holding the 5 points as you're standing, what we're going to do is very simple. Only walk as fast as you can while maintaining the 5 points. That's it. So you're going to walk back and forth between a couple of points in your room, and you can only walk as fast as you can maintain the 5 points. What I find is normally you start slowly, and then as you build up momentum and force in walking, then you start to walk a little faster, and eventually you get to a normal pace. So stand for as long as you need to, and then start doing some walking. Also, if you get to the point where you're walking, sort of like with the breath, right? If you get to the point where you're walking and you go, wait a minute, I've lost the 5 points, stop, reestablish the points, and then start walking slowly again. Especially if the mind has gone way off the target. Okay? And begin. Okay. Comments, questions, concerns? No, no need to keep the 5 points. We can have a bit of fun now if you'd like. So how did that go? Now, I say this with respect, but the reason for that is that you were doing worse while walking. And let me justify that answer. When you start walking and there's a lot of stuff to keep track of, your mind starts to move around internally and you don't notice because your mind is jumping around and going from this thing to that thing. And so what you remember and what you notice is that you were mostly, or part of you was keeping your mind on the points, which is good, but less of you was keeping your mind on the points than when you were standing, because it should be a struggle. And if it seems like it's less of a struggle when you're moving, this is an indication that actually less of your attention is on the activity of keeping it on the 5 points. At this stage of training, the primary indication that you're making progress is that it seems like your mind is an absolute bag of dicks, as they say in Scotland. If it seems like your mind has gone totally nuts and you're struggling with, for dear life, for the most part, to keep your mind on the activity you've selected to do, then that means you're making progress. So just like you went to the breath and you did the body scanning and it goes okay, then you move to standing and it goes okay, but there's a struggle. It should also be a struggle when you move to walking. And if it's not, it's because you're losing introspection. You're losing awareness of the quality of your own mind because the activity is more complicated. You see? This is really quintessential advice from my heart. I think this is why people look at YouTube videos, for example, that have music and there are pretty pictures and someone's talking to them the whole time. And they listen to this sort of thing and they think that they're making some kind of progress because there's a lot going on and they can't actually keep track of what's going on in their mind. And they think that because they're slightly more relaxed when they get done, that that was meditation training of some kind. And it's not. In the beginning, it should be difficult. And if it's not, it's because you're not doing the training. And of course, with the techniques I'm giving you, I'm doing my best to give you techniques that will give you access to things that let you know the rest of the training's worth doing. But unless we've been sitting for 30 minutes or 45 minutes already, it should be pretty difficult. Right? Okay. So yeah, good. Well, that was just a little taste. Hopefully that gives everyone a little taste of what it means to begin taking your practice off the cushion. And you can see the next level of this would be that while you're doing something more complicated like shopping for groceries or something, again, don't do this while driving. Don't do this while operating heavy machinery or in a dangerous situation. If you need to cross the street, focus on crossing the street, right? But if you're doing something else with relative complexity that involves your mind needing to make decisions about other things, your mind needing to keep track of something else like a conversation or a checklist or whatever, stuff that we just sort of normal stuff we do during our lives, then applying this technique, you'll see, once again, you have to level up from just walking, because walking back and forth is this repetitive, simple activity that eventually feels a bit more like sitting because you're just doing the same thing again and again. So then when the action becomes spontaneous and you're not doing the same thing twice, well, now all of a sudden the mind has to keep track of this one thing in the midst of everything else that's changing without losing the object. So it becomes even harder. It's like the child learning not just how to hold the ball and run, but hold the ball while 12 other strong rugby players are trying to rip the ball out of their hands and rip their body in half. You see? In other words, play rugby. So when you get out into real life, it's a bit more like playing rugby to hold the ball. And if it feels like, oh yeah, I'm just doing fantastic with this all day and and then you're not doing it. Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I hope I'm not being too harsh, but I want you guys to be successful. And to be successful, you have to think about it like training, not like, I don't know, at least at this stage, not like relaxation or something, you know? Again, I think you're starting to get to know my personality. I'm not trying to make it too grim, because actually, if it's too grim, you won't have as much concentration as early in the process. Right. Okay. Now we'll just do something for fun. Yeah. So I did this exercise with everyone on retreat a few weeks ago, but this is a fun one, and it just gives you a sense of, in a little micro way, how you might take something like opening vision off the cushion and into a more complex activity. So since everyone else seems to be in and out, and it seems to mostly be you and I, Cleric, just begin to open the eye sense, right? So we'll do this quickly. So everything to the front, back, left, right, up, down, and hold the 6 points of vision open. Now, keeping that open without allowing your eyes to close any of the directions, without turning your head, simply point your eyes to the left. So just look to the left. Keeping your eyes looking to the left, open the directions again. Left, right, up, down, front, back. Return your eyes to the center. Move your eyes to the right. Opening front, back, left, right, up, down. Bring your eyes back to the center. Looking down. Front, back, left, right, up, down. Back to the center. Looking up. Front, back, left, right, up, down. And back to the center. Now keep your eyes where they are in your skull, so they're looking forward. Hey Marco, we're working on the visual sense gate. I don't know if you've done that with us before. So opening the visual sense gate. Now keep your eyes where they are in your skull, but turn your head to the left. And before you do, the entire time that you're swiveling the head, keep the vision open, all 6 points, yeah? Here we go. Again, front, back, left, right, up, down. Bring the head back around, keeping the gates open. Turn the head to the right, keeping the gate open the entire time. And keeping your head there, front, back, left, right, up, down. Keeping the gate open, swivel back to the front. And relax. So that's just an example. That's just an example, but like this, any technique that you're not doing well with or that you're struggling with, that you're trying to figure out, how do I bring this into real life more? Just, you can be creative and try to come up with little micro exercises that help you get these skills into more difficult situations. So for example, with vision, as we were just doing, maybe you can do it when you're just looking ahead and the eyes stay where they are, and in essence the mirror is staying in one place and what's in front of the mirror is also staying the same, right? Much more difficult if what's in front of the mirror is changing, and if it's really changing and the mirror is moving. Now it's really complicated and difficult. So here, in a controlled environment, you can look to the left, look to the right. So now you're training wherever my eyes happen to be pointing, I can keep the mirror open the whole time. Same thing, wherever my head happens to be looking, I can keep the gate open at all times. And what's good about this is, in a very controlled environment, you're training the eyes and the visual sense to remain open no matter where your head is. You can do leaning your head back, leaning your head forward as well. You can do all these things if you want, so that you can train to keep the visual sense open as you move forward. Yeah, see, that's the problem. So the six points will move with the eyes, because the mirror is the eyes. Well, not is the eyes, is the visual consciousness. So if let's say that these are the front and back points, right? When I move my vision to this side, the front and back are now here in this orientation. When I move back here, they're here again. And left and right are here, but when I move my head, now left and right are here. You see? So it's relative to where the visual field is occurring, and the visual field changes where the orientation of it changes depending upon where my eyes are and my head is. So again, you can break up these things into little micro exercises that make it easier to take them into real life. So that was one that we did on retreat when we had a lot of time to sort of play around with these things and experiment with them a little bit more. But the one that I teach a little more mainline is the one that we did today. So breath, body scan, 5 points. Then try to take 5 points into standing, and then try to take 5 points into walking. Once you can do standing and walking fairly well, then bring in the 6 points, the 6 directions of tactile body, which is harder than holding just the sensations of your hands, feet, and head. Hands, feet, and crown, rather. It's harder to hold the whole sphere open. And then once you can do that, sitting, standing, walking, then you just rest with the whole tactile gate open, standing. And then you do the whole tactile gate open, walking. And then you take walking out of your meditation room and into real life, so that when you're walking down the road, you're holding the whole tactile gate open. And if you can't do that, you hold the 6 directions open. And if you can't do that, you hold the 5 points. And if you can't do that, you just keep the awareness on the feet. Yeah. So I'm trying to give you this little sort of taste of doing it with vision, so that you gain some sense of how counterintuitive it is to try to do it in real life. Because we don't normally think about the fact that when I turn my vision, just my eyes this way, now the visual field is actually oriented not like this front and back. It's now oriented like this front and back. Yeah. And so you can start to get a sense of, you can start to get a sense of how it is that you can begin taking these things off the cushion into real life. Yeah, no, this is exactly right. This is why I teach it this way. Because if you do the stuff, then instead of just reading it, then you go, oh wow, yeah, that makes sense. I can see what this is. I can see what that is. I can see how you would begin taking this into more complicated situations. And I can see how the deepest experience, like what I'm hoping is you can see how maybe just from standing today, for example, you can see how maybe the deepest experiences you've had so far in the last few weeks, months, years, you could start to transition into a standing posture. Then if you could do them standing, you can start to see, oh wow, yeah, then I could take them into walking. If you can do them walking, then you can start to see, wow, maybe I could take this into something more complex like shopping at the grocery store, or maybe as long as my work is not dangerous, as long as you're not like working with chainsaws every day, I could take this into my work environment, at least for some of the time. And this allows you to progressively train so that more of your activities are in this extremely high quality state of mind. And then think about the video I put up where I said, what do you do between meditation sessions? You're maintaining your ethics. So you're trying to, as much as you can, you don't hurt people, don't be a prick, be a gentleman. Try to take care of yourself as best you can, and be aware of other people and conscientious, and do what you can for them. And if you have to be assertive to get something done that's important, then do that. Don't become a doormat. That's not going to help you or other people. But also don't be a prick. That's a great example. Sorry, let me finish this thought. I read your comment. So when you're doing the ethics part of this, and you're also then adding on, like you just said, these micro sessions where you're opening a gate or you're bringing more awareness into what you're doing, then by the time you get back to the cushion, the quality of your mind, instead of starting from here, it starts from here, which means that this is the bar now. It used to take you 30 minutes to get to here sitting. And now you're starting from here to do your 30 minutes, which means that the quality of what you get is going to be much higher for that 30 minutes than you could have had otherwise. And then once you've accomplished this, then maybe throughout the day you can maintain something a little higher than you were before. And up and up and up it goes, life notwithstanding, because sometimes life will hit you really hard and you'll be depressed, or there'll be way too much stuff to do, or, as lay people living in the real world, really bad things occasionally happen, and it really takes the wind out of you, and you do the minimum at that point. You don't quit, but you do the minimum so that you maintain. Maybe you go from here and real life really takes it out of you, and now you're down here, but at least you maintain this. And you do little sessions, whatever you can, And then at some point, life doesn't suck, and you get back up to here. And you carry on with your training. Okay, let me see what you're saying here. Yeah, it makes sense to me that the intensive breath meditation would get easier over time. And the reason for that is that I'm giving you a technique that allows you to very rapidly address the first problem you have in meditation, which is that you can't actually get your mind to the object, and you can't actually get the mind to stay there for any period of time. And because this technique very rapidly forces you to gain those cognitive skills, it should actually get easier, even if you're only doing a few minutes. But those of you who have been following along or doing the videos afterwards have also been doing body scanning and stuff, which is making the whole system calmer and better. So your ability to notice the quality of your mind and get it to go where you want it to go should be building up even after a couple of weeks. Yeah. Well, this was lucky number session 13. Lucky session number 13 even. Where we transitioned from sitting down to standing up and walking. So do in your daily practices, if you're doing practice beyond what I do with you, start to bring this into your sessions. So um, maybe do, if you're doing 20 minutes, maybe do 15 minutes seated and then do 5 minutes standing. Just again, start the transition. You do want to spend at this stage of your training most of it seated, but get a little bit of time standing. And then maybe you don't do walking full on yet, but when you leave your meditation area, you maintain for a period of time your meditation object as you're getting back to real life, so that you don't just jump right back into everything. You're still maintaining the quality of mind you gained on the cushion. And this will give you the ability to extend the benefit that you got on the cushion, and you can begin to bring it into real life straight from there. And then with a little bit of luck, in a few years, a few years' time, by the time you get to the evening session, you will have maintained the benefit you had from the earlier session. Yep, go ahead. Marco, just so you know, there is a huge delay between YouTube and my comment section. I think it's somewhere between 15 seconds and 30 seconds at any given day. So if you ever have a question or a comment, just go ahead and put it straight in, because all the talking that I'm doing right now was waiting for your question to come in. It finally just came through. Okay. Yes. Yes. So normally, once you have some skill in bringing your mind to your meditation object, I recommend starting all your sessions with intensive breath meditation for this reason. As a normal person living in the real world, most of your days, by the time you get back to your meditation cushion, your mind will be a disaster. Okay? Your mind will already be a wreck because you've been working, you got in a fight with your wife or your girlfriend, you're not sure if you're going to make the rent payment or whatever, Real life will continue, or you've been distracted and flipping through TikTok all day or whatever, right? Depending on how your day's going. And so you need some really powerful technique to bring your mind into a meditative state as quickly as you can. Otherwise, you're going to waste time in the session just with your mind floating around. So use intensive breath meditation, at least for a couple of minutes, even if you're going to do something else, to rapidly induce or rapidly get you into a state of concentration that's okay, let's say. And then, of course, from there, I recommend, generally speaking, to do a brief body scan, because that'll calm the whole system down. Now, if you don't have time to do a body scan because you want to do some other techniques like opening the gates or whatever, go ahead. But if you have time and inclination, then do a brief body scan of the big parts. Even just left leg, right leg, pelvis, waist, diaphragm ring, chest, left arm, right arm, bottom third of the neck, middle, upper, head. Okay, 5 points. Okay, 6 directions. Front, back, left, right, up, down. Okay, release, tactile body. Open the tactile gate. Okay, now I'm going to work on what I'm working on for the day. Maybe vision, maybe hearing, maybe some other technique. I don't know, maybe you're involved in Qigong, or maybe you're doing Taoist Neigong, or you're doing whatever it happens to be. Then from there, when the system is calmer, you've rapidly got the mind as calm as you can, cleared out as much BS as you can to get the session started in the course of, probably 3 or 4 minutes. Now, with a starting from a higher quality of mind, begin the session in earnest. That's my advice. Okay, everyone. Well, happy Saturday. Thank you all for coming. Hope to see you again soon. Cheers.